COOPERL strategy is to develop a kind of differentiation of this product, starting in 1995 with from standard to non-GMO. Now there is more or less 40 different cahier des charges requirements. Thank you, Arnaud. Antibiotic-free is one of them, probably the most important. For the future, there is so many challenges the pig production has to fight with, from animal welfare to public health and animal health, of course, but also pollution, pesticides, and climate change, and so on. So the next organization for requirement will be concentrated around the corporate social responsibility concerning humans, animals, planet, and territories. But if we go back to antibiotic-free production, we start more or less in 2013, and now we have 3 million pigs raised without antibiotic, 1 million from birth, and 2 million from weaning. Okay, how did we manage it? First of all, we have more or less 5 to 6 rules. First of all, firstly, set foundations. Second step is involve all stakeholders to innovate. Third is evaluate each farm through an access audit, maybe is the most important point that makes the decision to go in or out the decision or the requirement. 4, it builds the monitoring tools and alternatives. And 5 is make anything that can avoid failure in order to gain trust. And at the end, we will open how to enlarge and expand the project. Okay, so firstly, set the foundation. We have a subsidiary named Nucleus, which is involved in producing gilts. And we start with some GGP with air filtration. Now we have 8 GGP farms with air filtration with a high health status from the gilt, free from Perth mycoplasma and of course actinobacillus. The second point is to manage the farm in a systemic approach. That means considering, of course, microbes, but raising pigs without antibiotic is not change antibiotics from vaccines. It's also to take in consideration all the other factors, means animals, housing condition, feeding, farm management, and of course breeders. To evaluate all these different points, we have that we call access audit. That means we check all the different and the major points at the farm level, meaning zootechnical practices, building, ventilation, water quality, internal biosecurity, and so on. And the objective of this audit is to identify the risk factor and classify the farm, to make a decision. What is the decision? Is if you are able to manage all the main critical points and to improve them, it's okay. But if you are not able or you are too far from the situation to entering the race without antibiotic production, it's better not to go. Because what we do not want is to make the farmers go and out and go and out. And actually, we check that we call ALEA, that you know, is the animal exposure of antibiotic. With the pig rate antibiotic strategy, we decrease by 4 the average ALEA, okay? And we follow this indicator to be sure that the farmer is still able to manage the health and the requirements. So we did not want for the farm to go in and out. The third point is with audit access is also to check many points concerning quality of water, and of course it's a very important point. More or less 80% of the water is non-consumable, so we need to make it potabilized with chlorine and so on. But we also check dehydration of the pigs, oxidative stress, inflammation, with more classical serological tools, PERS, PCV2, and so on. With this audit access, we check all the zootechnical points, but also we adapt after the water feed is, of course, the second point more important, to increase or optimize the weight and vitality of the piglets, optimize the colostrum intake, which is probably one of the major points, to also regulate the microbiota of the sow and piglets, and to increase the immune system. And for the piglets at weaning, learning them to eat, which was probably one of the most also important points for the pig raisers antibiotic farm, and also worked for palatable feed and intakes and so on. And also to have a good formulation to increase digestible raw materials. Okay, we also have some indicator at the slaughter, meaning to check the health of lungs, of respiratory health. So at the end, we have monitoring tools, a kind of keyboard of a dashboard with the main KPI, and we follow them to be sure that there is no risk at the farm level to make a kind of crisis, sanitary crisis. And of course, we develop all antibiotic alternative means, probiotic, postbiotic, organic acid, and so on. Okay. Of course, animals are important, viruses are important, but the farmers are important and his employees are important. So, of course, if animals need antibiotic, we use, but we identify the pigs to remove some from the requirements. And we also need to assure the confidence of the farmers to demonstrate that he do not lose money. Because in the past, farmer was convinced, and not only farmers, vets also, was convinced that antibiotics in the feed or antibiotic in the water was a good way to increase the money. But at the end, we demonstrate that farmers that use antibiotic and farmers do not use antibiotic. In fact, if we manage the health, we win more money, and it's we have no need to use antibiotics. For the future, from now we have 3 million slaughter pigs. Our objective in 2030 is to reach more or less 60 to 70%. Of course, we know that farmers that we retired or very old farms will not enter in this requirement, but young farmers know that they have the responsibility because they raise pigs. They have responsibility concerning the society, not only with antibiotics, but of course with welfare and environment. So we continue antibiotic pig production. We are more or less around 14 weaned pigs. So that means we have newborn piglets that are wet, light, and we need to work on it. And also we have a very strong team concerning innovation with different partnerships. For example, this one is to detect and eradicate disease at the farm level. And it's with different partners, but mainly ANSES, which is a French EFSA. So to resume, after I will answer you some questions, but antibiotic-free pig production is not so difficult if we respect a kind of method, strong management decision, involvement of all the stakeholders, and innovation in all departments. That's very important in the group because we have many people that makes the success of this requirement on this démarche is everybody work together. The development of measurement tools to identify where you are, and a step-by-step approach to capitalize on quick wins. And at the end, a test and learn strategy with cause analysis and action deployment. Just to ask the 3 questions in the mail that I understood, what is the future of antibiotic-free production for COOPERL, okay, for us, is not the future. It's just the standard, okay, that we consider the standard. This standard will become, as I explained, a part of a more global approach, means CSR production, taking into account other issues such welfare, decarbonization, biodiversity, and so on. So that was the first question. Second question, do you foresee the market share of antibiotic becomes higher in the future? Of course, now it's not the better situation because of economical crisis and even more if we take into consideration the political situation. But as a new standard for long term, it will be the foundation on which to build our development. It's actually the same, and increase our market share. And in France, it's very important for us to keep and develop the market share. And for the third question, what is needed to incentive this type of $0.08 per kilo, but if they ask to enter the requirement just for the money, they fail. So we prefer him to come because he understood and is very motivated to decrease the use of antibiotic. After, the second very important point is not to just to explain, really to show them, and make the farmers meet together, have discussion, exchange, and so on. Of course, it's a long-term strategy, so we need to reassure in all along the development of the strategy, we need to reassure to support them. Support them means vets, technicians, nutritionists, and so on. Okay, we need also not to keep the actual situation, but also to step back and take a global view, not only consider microbials, but also, as I explained, all the different stakeholders. And okay, a very important key point also is to measure progress anytime, to reassure, and also to demonstrate that we have created some value. And at the end, don't stop at the first hurdle, because it's not so difficult approach, but it's not so simple also. And of course, it's less simple than using antibiotic. And learn from failure and at both farms, and at collective level. That means learn from failure with the farmer, okay, but also exchange with all the different vets and technicians to make a kind of organisation apprenante learning company. Sorry. Okay, so just to finish, and as you understood, my English is poor, so I'm sorry for that. But we have a great team in COOPERL. There is 100, more or less, 150 people working in innovation. The head of them are in the picture. And we have a strategy in innovation which is quite simple: animal welfare, animal health, farm efficiency, efficiency in the industry also, consumer and health and public health, energy and resources, circular economy and agroecology. And of course, pig-resistant antibiotic is one of them, and it's in the level of animal health. And I wanted also to thank the group Avant for inviting me to explain you how we manage the animal-raised, pig-raised antibiotic production at COOPERL Group. Thank you. Là, par contre, je sais pas comment t'es connecté.
Jean-Noël, can you hear me now?
Okay. And if you have some question?
Yeah, Jean-Noël, can you hear me?
Non, j'entends pas. Pourquoi t'as pas de haut-parleur?
Can you talk, Lucas?
Jean-Noël, can you hear me now?
Do you hear us? Online we do.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's important that they can hear me. So who is going to, can you hear me, Jean-Noël?
Yes, I hear you, Luca.
Okay, wonderful. I'm very sorry for this technical issue we had at the beginning of the workshop. I apologize also with all the attendees. I hope you can all hear me. And sorry, Jean-Noël, I wasn't even able to introduce properly your talk because of this technical issue.
I'm sorry, there is not enough net to understand you.
Yeah, I think there is an internet connection problem, but thank you so much. The presentation was very enlightening. I actually do have a question before I ask Peter if there is any question from the audience. You mentioned as one of the key factors colostrum intake. And there are also veterinarians and farmers, farmer associations attending this workshop. So what is exactly, because one of the nonsenses in modern intensive pig production is that we have selected for sows that have big litters and high number of teats, but sometimes the number of teats is not enough to give colostrum and milk to all the piglets in the litter. So what is the strategy actually to optimize slash maximize colostrum intake, especially for the weakest piglets at birth?
Okay, so there is, just to be sure I understood correctly the question, because the sound is very cut, but our objective is to have less than 20% of the piglets born after 3 hours. Okay, because after 3 hours, the quantity of IgG is too small, and you increase the risk of diarrhea in maternity, but also to increase the risk of dynamic of infection in post-weaning. So the strategy to increase the colostrum intake is maybe at the 3 main level of selection of gilts with good maternity quality. It is a feed strategy for the sow to have a good farrowing rate or a good farrowing duration. It's of course farm management to help the piglets get the colostrum. Usually we check the quantity of IgG in the colostrum, but it's more interesting to check the seric IgG in the piglets at 2 days or at weaning. Yeah, and usually we try to increase 20 mg by DL.
Yeah, thank you. I think you understood the question you answered. I mean, the one about how to manage actually if there is competition between the piglets and there is not a sufficient number of teats for all the piglets in the litter. Do you have any strategies to ensure that the weakest ones get enough colostrum?
Okay, adoption. If you don't have enough teats, apart adoption, there is no really solution. And to have a very also buildings and feed quality to retire the most comment tu dis l'excédent?
Yes.
Piglets that are over the size of the litter.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Of course.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Jean-Noël.